Good morning, everyone. Welcome to First Church of Religious Science. Whether you're joining us here on Zoom, as I see most of you are, we're lighting up the board. Welcome, welcome. If you're joining us on social media or listening later, I want you to know how grateful we are for your presence. This moment we're sharing is a sacred space for exploration, for connection, for growth. You are part of a powerful, loving community when you join us. It's an honor to walk with you on this journey. This is in the old First Church, we'd have a welcome. I don't have it with me today, which would say, enter and be not afraid. The table is set and everything's here for you. It's been prepared for you. I'll probably have it next week. So welcome. I'm glad you're here. At First Church, we're passionate about empowering people to live their best lives. We teach them lessons in truth. We teach them that you are the whole bit, as Raymond Charles Barker would say, that you have everything you need for your success, or Jimmy would say, your success and godliness. We blend spiritual wisdom with practical tools to help you create an abundant life filled with joy, meaning, and purpose. Our mission is pretty simple. We're here to support you in discovering the infinite potential within you and inspire you to live with a deep connection with Spirit. We have weekly gatherings. We have 3 broadcast events every week. Most of you who attend regularly know them. Wednesday evening at 7 p.m., Jimmy hosts and facilitates our creative living class, which I'm sure you would enjoy. It's the same Zoom links. On Thursday, I facilitate and host our self-healing class, which is based upon the book You Can Heal Your Life by Louise. We're very proud of Louise. She was from our First Church. This is where she got her education under Barker. This is where she became a practitioner. And then Sunday mornings, here we are. Meditation at 10:45, followed by a lesson in truth. And one of the things that's great about what we do in our center, we have a studio audience, but we've created a virtual community where there's time for just about everyone to share after everything we do. And we love it when you share. So please, when it comes time to share, at least say hello so we can welcome you and anything that comes up for you during any of our broadcasts. What we do here is everything we do is based on a love offering. So don't feel obliged, but if you can support us, that's wonderful. Your contributions make it possible for us to continue doing these programs. And it's really allowing us to reach a global community. So it's really astounding how far we're getting now. People are listening to us on just about all the social media platforms, and we're humbled and gratified. The number of the people that are benefiting from the work we're doing is really astounding. So it's a surprise, and we're all grateful for it. If you feel moved to support us, the links you'll see are always in the chat room. They're posted several times through every broadcast, or they can be found on any of the platforms or our website. And if anyone wants to do it the old-fashioned way, people can still send checks to us at 204 West 84th Street, New York, New York. That's 204 West 84th Street, New York, New York, 10024. So that's the end of my commercials, except to say every gift, no matter the size, is deeply appreciated. And it helps us to keep growing our community and helping people quite a far distance now. Now, I want to start by reading today an excerpt from a poem that I found that I think will set the tone. The poem is called Invictus. I'm just going to read an excerpt. Invictus was written by William Ernest Henley. And here's the passage. Out of the night that covers me, black as the pit from pole to pole, I thank whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul. It matters not how straight the gate, how charged with punishments the scroll. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. This timeless poem, Invictus, reminds us of reminds us of the indomitable spirit within each and every one of us. No matter the challenges we face, there is a place within us, a deep reservoir of courage and strength that can and will guide us to freedom and fulfillment. This inner power, which I like to think of as Spirit's presence, this Spirit's presence within us is what we will be exploring today. Our title today, The Power of Trusting Yourself. Again, the power of trusting yourself. The source for a lot of my material today is or was Ralph Waldo Emerson. Now, I've been intrigued by him for a long time. I think since I say 18 or 19, it might have been 19 or 20 years old. And that's a story in and of itself. The brief version, the long story, is that I was working in a restaurant with a man. His name was Paul. And I remember my father saying to me, "Greg, he's one of the smartest men in town." And I thought he was a bartender, and but in fact, he was an engineer. And Paul always had his nose in this book when he wasn't taking care of customers. And what he was reading always was Emerson's essays. Whenever there was not a customer, he was reading that book. And one night I asked him, "What's in that book that keeps you so preoccupied?" And again, I was probably 19 or 20 years old. And I remember, though, his exact words. He said, "Everything you're ever going to need to know about life, kid, you're going to find in this book." And well, that remark started my relationship with Ralph Waldo Emerson, class after class, and reading Emerson aloud and studying in every kind of study group. So today I asked the audience or everyone in the gathering, who was Emerson? And if you don't know, let me tell you this. Ralph Waldo Emerson was a beacon of inspiration. He was a thinker. He was a great thinker. People think he was the greatest mind of the last century. He was a thinker whose ideas transcended time. People said, again, he was the greatest mind of that era. It was the 1800s. I remember several of my teachers saying, there's only a few from every generation who are going to discover the consciousness of Ralph Waldo Emerson. I mean, many of us read him when we're in college. We read excerpts, for a college course. It's an altogether different thing when you read him aloud, and he was an orator primarily, and he wrote these essays that his consciousness will blow you away if you really take the time. He's not easy to read, though, for most people. But if you stay with him, and it's worth all the effort, because you'll understand what everybody's talking about. He had what I'll say is breathtaking consciousness. He was known as a writer, a philosopher, and a visionary. He dared always to challenge the conventions of his era. I remember he was a minister, and he got into a lot of hot water at Harvard Divinity School, because he was questioning things that nobody wanted him to question at the time. He wasn't just a thinker. He was a revolutionary in that sense. He spoke boldly of self-reliance. And see, this teaching is really all about self-expression and your freedom to speak and to think for yourself. So that was one of his famous essays, Self-Reliance. So he spoke on self-reliance. He spoke about spirit within and trusting that spirit that's within you. Trusting that divine presence that's surely within you, that's in each of us. All of the concepts that he spoke of still resonate profoundly to people in our teaching, and to anybody who really takes the time. I think you'd all be floored in a very good way. So let me ask you a question. Have you ever been at a point in your life where you say, I'm in a hard spot? I've been at the crossroads where you feel uncertain about where you are, what you need to do next, and all of that, unsure of your path, unsure if you're in the right situation, the right relationship, the right job, whatever it is. I think it's safe to say that most of us have been in that place. Well, if you think back on Emerson, the courage it took for him to stand against the tide of conformity in a time when society and the religions of that time clung very tightly to traditional doctrines. His voice, he was at a crossroads all his life. His voice, steeped in the power of the individual spirit, was a force. And, it was then and it is now to anyone who still hears his voice and what he was saying. And what he was asking us to do then and now is to trust our intuition. Trust thyself. Socrates was saying, know thyself. He was saying, trust yourself and embrace the wisdom you have. You are one with the one, I say every week here. So he was asking you to trust that. Trust that. You don't find God in the church. The spirit within you it's within you. It's operating through you. You wake up to how great thou art. You have it. You are the whole bit, as Barker would say. So if you can picture or imagine a world that he lived in, 19th century society, where spirituality was often confined to the walls of these religious buildings, or in his case, sometimes it was institutions, these universities or churches, and all the rigidity of the doctrines that were taught. It was a time where people looked above and they looked outward for the answers. Everything was above or outward. And people were relying on external authorities, deities, or anything to dictate their spiritual answers. But Emerson had the audacity to speak or to ask, what if the truth isn't found out there or up there? What if it resides within each and every one of us? In his groundbreaking divinity school address at Harvard, Emerson declared that truth could not be contained in these religions. It could not be contained in these creeds. And truth will not be found in hierarchies, these structures. You think of the churches and the bishops and the levels of the clergy. So you're not going to find it there. Truths won't be found in any of this, suggesting it will be found and it will be found and lived in the individual. He branded his boldness caused an uproar, as you probably would guess. He was branded at the time a heretic, and he was effectively barred from Harvard, speaking there, for most of his adult life. I understand he was allowed to come back as an elderly man when he thought he was a genius, but most of his life he was pushed aside until the end of his life. He was so far ahead of his time then, and he's still ahead of his time now in terms of what most people realize. He always remained steadfast, though, in his beliefs. He's always embodying the very self-reliance that he championed and that he still inspires me with. Emerson's ideas form a bridge to new thought and religious science. He, alongside with the transcendentalists, saw the divine as something within you. He saw the divine as immanent. He saw the divine as woven into the very fabric of nature itself. He saw the divine in humanity. In other words, there's not a spot where God is not. There's not a spot where this divinity doesn't exist. It's always a presence. It's never an absence. He saw it in the quiet whispers of our intuition. My teachers used to say, there is that which is within you that knows. And I remember my teacher saying, there is that which is within you that always knows. And Emerson was telling us that all those years ago, that this divine is immanent, it's in you, operating through you. You'll see it, you'll hear it in the quiet whispers of intuition. Life, in the view of the transcendentalist, was an interconnected whole. We're all one with the one, with each person a unique and vital expression of spirit. So I'm sure all that sounds familiar because all of that is the heart of religious science. Spirit is an activity. It's infinite. It's an infinite activity, and we are all its individual expressions. Emerson's reminder was that the answers are already within us. And that aligns perfectly what Ernest Holmes said. Ernest Holmes said, the kingdom of heaven is not far off. It's within you. Emerson and Holmes both call us to recognize that this divine presence is not distant. It's not elusive. You don't have to search for it. You simply have to wake to it. Take those pauses we talk about every single week. Again, Emerson and Holmes they're both calling us to recognize that this presence is not distant. It's not elusive. Each and every one of you are sitting or standing on holy ground. It's there in you, operating through you. You're a part of it. Or as we say most weeks here, it's a presence. It's never an absence. We live in it. We move in it. We have our being in it, and it's responding to us. We are never disconnected from Source. The wisdom, the love, the intelligence of Spirit flows through you all the time, and it's always ready to guide every moment. Simply invite it in. Let me ask you a question. When was the last time you paused long enough to listen to that quiet, guiding voice within? Just as Emerson trusted his inner truth, we too are invited to recognize and trust that that same divine presence is within ourselves. So this is logical to us, right? So it's a logical thing for us to cultivate self-reliance. Here's a few actionable steps we can take. It's important we find the way somehow to create moments of stillness in our daily life. And different people are going to do that in different ways, but it's important to do it. We talk about taking a pause, a time or a few moments where we could step away from distraction, social media, the news cycle. It's important to find a time in the day where we can do that. Most of you know we talk about being still, taking a pause throughout the day. Whatever you do, whatever is your way to bring yourself to a place where you can have some quiet. In these moments and in that kind of silence, you'll hear the voice of your intuition more clearly. Your voice, my voice, is very active. And you'll notice it more and more as you take this time. If you just let yourself run and just react, all day long, you may not. But the Spirit is going to break through. There's a saying attributed to Emerson that the dice of God are always loaded. Eventually you're going to listen to it anyway. But what we're doing here in this teaching is we're deliberately realizing that there is power for good in the universe, and we can use it. And we're inviting you to take some time each day to pause, to reflect, and to understand that deep in the center of your being, there is this thing, and it is responding to you. So the suggestion again for today is creating moments of stillness. Make that a practice in your daily life. Moments to ask yourself, what feels true for me right now? What feels right? And, there's other questions that I've learned over the years. You could ask, what's the most self-loving thing I could do? You can take a pause and ask yourself those kinds of questions, because Spirit always answers those questions. It's the first thought that comes to mind. Whenever you do this, however you do it, because there's no real right or wrong way. You could journal. There's so many things I could suggest. But taking the time is the most to do it. This time out, this reflection allows you to align with your inner truth. And the next suggestion for today is take some action. Take a small step, or take a few small steps. Now, maybe you're not going to take a big, bold step today. Maybe you're not going to totally embrace and love yourself completely in one day. But take a step. Build trust in yourself. Doesn't require doing grand gestures. Building trust just requires making a beginning. Maybe say no to something that you always say yes to. Maybe say no to something that doesn't feel right, or taking a small, courageous step towards something that might bring you happiness. Every single action that you take strengthens your confidence in your inner wisdom. Let me give you an example. Imagine someone who's decided to leave a very secure but uninspiring career to follow a passion that feels deeply aligned with something they've always wanted to do. This action isn't without fear, but it becomes the birthplace of self-reliance. By honoring your intuition, something you're longing to do, you're stepping into a life that reflects Spirit's unique expression. There's a couple people that I'm going to talk about briefly today that have stepped up after many failed attempts. People that trusted themselves even when the world did not. Now, I know you're going to know these stories, but they're worth looking at again. One, very familiar, is Thomas Edison. As many of you know, he tried and he failed 1,000 times to get his light bulb to work. What kept Edison going? What do you think kept him going? After so much failure, after listening to so much negativity around him, because he heard a lot. All the comments we have about him indicated that no matter what was said about him, he had a great trust and he had an inner knowing that he could do this. He knew and he knew that he could do it. He knew and he knew that he knew and he knew that he could achieve this. He absolutely knew that he was onto it and that he would be successful. He knew that he would discover the way. And most of all, he didn't see a setback of this kind as a failure, as a defeat. In the story of Edison, he's reminding us that our progress isn't always linear. That he's reminding me that divine intelligence within us will reveal the way step by step. Even after we make mistakes, you learn, you're stepping up to a different point of understanding. I like to talk about one other visionary today, a more modern one, Steve Jobs of Apple fame. Steve Jobs exemplified a person with a great self-reliance also. He had the courage to just trust his own inner voice no matter what anybody told him. If you think about his journey, after being thrown out of Apple, the very company he helped create, he could have given up. He certainly had money. He could have given up. Instead, he started over, founding a company. It was NE capital XT, and then investing in another company called Pixar, investing his time, his money. These ventures ultimately redefined Job's legacy, and it led him right back to Apple, where he entered Apple and he transformed Apple into one of the most innovative companies in the world, in world history. He once said, "You can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards." Now, that's a line that's confounded me every time I've heard it. And he went on to explain, you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. So what did he mean by this? He was sharing a profound truth that we all face. Life doesn't always make sense when you're living it. It just doesn't make sense in the moment. He commented, the choices we make, the challenges we encounter, and even the setbacks that we have, we endure, they can feel very confusing and we can feel disconnected. But when we reflect on these things later, here's the spiritual part of it. When we reflect on all the things that have happened to us and we've gone through, we will then see how they prepared us or even redirected us towards something much greater than what we had originally thought or planned. In religious science circles, we might say we can see the hand of spirit in all of it. There was a book, The Celestine Prophecy, they taught in one of the manuscripts, to see the long view. Looking back in your life, you can see the miracles. You can see how everything happened, one thing brought you to another, to another, to another. You can see the hand of spirit in every single bit of it, retrospectively. So yeah, we can see from a distance all the good that's happened. There's another saying that you've heard me use over the years, those of you who've been with us a long time, from the Course in Miracles, which says it takes great wisdom to understand that all circumstances, happenings, and events are helpful. Looking back, you can see how it all came together, how it all unfolded for our greater good. You don't have to see the whole path. You absolutely don't have to see the whole path. You just need to trust. Trust and take the next right steps. To trust in the step you're taking right now. Trust that spirit, the same divine intelligence that Emerson spoke of, knows the way. So we have to trust the process of life. Louise would give you that guidance. Even when you can't figure it out, trust your inner compass, trust your intuition, trust that it's always there in you, operating through you, and it will guide you through the fog. It's there to be it's there to help you connect the dots. And when the time is right, it will manifest. This belief in yourself, this belief in the unseen, this belief in the divine wisdom within that works through us aligns beautifully with Emerson's teachings, with the teachings of religious science principles. It's a reminder that we don't need all the answers all at once. We only need to trust the process, knowing that every single step contributes to unfolding of a greater plan. So let's tie in Edison. Let's tie in Edison and Steve Jobs back to Emerson. Edison and Jobs, though separated by more than a century, shared a common thread with Ralph Waldo Emerson. They both trusted their inner compass that guided their lives. Edison trusted himself completely. Jobs had tremendous confidence in himself as well. Emerson's iron string that I spoke about, where he says that deep intuitive knowing that connects us to spirit, that vibrated in their hearts as well. Emerson, said we can trust spirit to give us a nudge, to communicate with us, to communicate this small whisper that will always urge us to step forward, even when we're unsure of the outcome. Emerson, and Jobs, each of them show us that self-reliance is not just about trusting our ability to succeed. It's about trusting in life itself. It's about trusting the journey, knowing that every single step we take, even the missteps, is part of the divine unfolding. Both of these figures embodied Emerson's belief that imitation is suicide, meaning you're not here to be anybody else. You're not here to try to be like anybody else. So here's a call for all of us to light ourselves up. Imagine how your life might change if you trusted in your own inner compass. If you took those pauses and you communed with spirit and asked for guidance, imagine how your life would change if you trusted your own inner compass. Trusting this inner compass isn't just about achieving success or reaching milestones. It's about living authentically. We don't need to get approval from the right or the left. It's about living authentically, living courageously, and living in harmony with the highest truth of who we are. It's about stepping into the fullness of who we have come here to be and knowing that our choices are important, knowing that each choice made in alignment with this inner wisdom brings us closer to the divine expression of who we really are. But Emerson reminds us that the journey to trust begins with taking steps. To hear that iron string, we must first quiet the noise of the world and create a little space to listen with intention. True self-reliance is built moment by moment as we choose again and again to trust the guidance of spirit within. As we choose again and again to trust it, it's like growing. You get stronger and stronger. So here's an affirmation for you as we walk this path of trust. I trust myself completely. Here's another. I'm guided by divine wisdom. You can speak these affirmations into your heart. I trust myself completely. I'm guided by divine wisdom. I release all that clouds my vision, and I walk confidently in my truth. There they are again. I trust myself completely. I am guided by divine wisdom. I release all that clouds my vision, and I walk confidently in my truth. Let yourself feel the energy of these words, not as distant hopes, but as truths that live within you, vibrant and active. Allow them to be touchstones that inspire your actions, not just this week, but as a part of a lifelong practice of self-reliance and trust in spirit. So the challenge for today and for this week is simple, yet profound. Trust yourself. Trust yourself. You don't have to look anywhere else. Inquire within. It's there. Everything you're looking for. It's a journey without a distance. Trust yourself as we've explored together today. Trusting yourself isn't about waiting for the perfect moment or waiting for fear to disappear. It's not about everything being just right either. Trusting yourself is about stepping boldly into the truth of who you already are Spirit doesn't guide you to live a life of half measures. It calls you to step fully into your power, reminding you that the divine is within you and it's limitless. You are the whole bit. You are fully equipped. You have everything you need to move forward. You have everything you need to move forward with confidence and grace. This week, I challenge myself, I challenge everyone to put self-reliance into action. Okay, again, here's the challenge for this week. Think of one thing you can do that will invite you to challenge your inner compass. Perhaps it's taking a first step towards a dream, towards something you've been nurturing quietly in your heart and you haven't really acted on. Maybe it's releasing a habit or a thought or a belief that you've come to realize is working against you. Or it might be taking a step towards maybe saying yes to something that excites you, or saying no to something that seems out of alignment with your truth. Whatever it is, please give yourself permission to act. Not because you know all the answers, but because you trust that the answers will be there as you move forward. Spirit reveals itself not in hesitation, but in motion, in action. So let's affirm we're going to take that step. And as we do, let's watch the fog of doubt lift and the path before us becomes brilliantly clear. We teach affirmative living here. We teach positive expectancy. So picture yourself standing fully in your truth, being supplied and supported in joy and freedom. Visualize that inner light, your inner wisdom shining so brightly that hesitation and second guessing just fade away. This is the life that Spirit dreams for you, a life of boldness, a life of courage, and limitless possibility. And here's the beauty of it. It's already yours. It's waiting for you to claim it one step, one act of trust at a time. So let's anchor this morning in prayer. Right here, right now, I recognize the magnificent truth of who I am, an individual expression of infinite spirit. I affirm that divine intelligence flows through me, as me, in every moment of my life. The wisdom is alive within me, vibrant, loving, and ever present. I declare all doubts, fears dissolve in the light of this truth. I release any lingering limitations, knowing that courage, authenticity, and joy are my natural state. Today, I stand rooted in trust. I know that Spirit expresses itself perfectly through me, guiding every step I take with clarity and love. I now open the doors to greater possibilities, deeper peace, and boundless fulfillment. I move forward with confidence and gratitude, and the unwavering assurance that all is unfolding in divine order. And so it is. Thank you all.